Actress Lebo Mashile says women are making their mark in the fight against the scourge of gender-based violence in the country. Mashile explains that voices in the mainstream media on the subject have encouraged vulnerable women to stand up against perpetrators of physical and psychological abuse.
I do think that they are exposing truths. For example, the way that women responded to the death of Uyinene Mkhwetjana last year on Twitter with what has become an infamous list, a database of 9,000 men who perpetrated acts of violence against women, ranging from, ranging from beatings to women being raped. And this keeps coming up in popular culture. This keeps getting talked about. When these men take up space, women remind people that you were on the list, So there's an interesting shift in the culture that's happening where women are believing other women en masse. And in as much as we have to deal with the violence of patriarchy everywhere at every level in our lives, there's also this interesting and supportive space where women are believing women. And that points to massive change. I'm excited about that. And I hope that it continues to grow. And the fact that there's space to be able to talk about these things, that there's space for particularly Black women to be able to speak about these things, it points to change, and it's exciting. But that exists against this terrible backdrop of violence and fear.
Mashile says children need to be taught about body autonomy and consent from a young age. She explains that this will create an enabling environment for the eradication of gender-based violence and instill respect and protection of women and children's rights.
There need to be a number of interventions at different levels. From school level, children need to be taught about body autonomy and about consent, and need to be taught openly about sex, about what sex is and what sex isn't. And we need to also educate and conscientize adults using media, to speak about rape culture, to speak about where it comes from, to speak about institutionalized violence, our history, how the traumas that we have experienced are ongoing in the way that we treat each other, in the way that we express ourselves sexually, And I think at a practical level, there needs to be more receptive police. The front line where women turn to after they've experienced a violation needs to be a space that respects them, that respects us, and that respects the difficulty of this trauma, that respects the anguish of the moment. And I think we also need to acknowledge that the law needs to acknowledge that the trauma of gender-based violence is ongoing.